and she says she got a 80% raise in the last 1 week. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what happened? And she's like, well, this happened. I talked to people, and then they gave me 50% raise, and then I pushed further, and they gave me 30% more. And and then she asked me something that I'll never forget. She said, can you work with me? I'm like, I'm not working. I thought she wanted to hire me, to work with me. Like, hey, can you join me and like my company? I'm like, no, I'm not working. I'm taking time off. She's like, no, 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 no. I mean, can you coach me? And I'm like, what is coaching?
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Yogeshwer Sharma, whose philosophy that we don't get what we work for, but we get what we work for and what we ask for, has transformed how his clients approach their careers and self-worth. What's remarkable about Yogi's track is about his record and the tangible results he delivers, with clients securing raises above $250,000 and others achieving increases of over 30%, all while improving their workplace relationships and personal fulfillment. Yogi specializes in helping motivated professionals who work hard but feel undervalued, focusing on the critical connection between self-talk and outcomes. His approach centers on fostering self-trust and enabling those uncomfortable but necessary conversations that bridge the gap between daily work and long-term vision, making success achievable and fulfillment inevitable. Well, welcome to the show, Yogi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. From the day we met, Yogi, and it's great to have you, And I like to rewind a bit, because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you?
So there is a conscious moment and an unconscious moment.
Walk me through it.
Yeah, conscious moment was, so I was working at Facebook Meta. I joined when they were 500 people, very small. I left when they were 15,000. So 30x growth I saw in like 6-7 years I was there. And I just left that for, I was just burned out. I'm like, I'm done. And then at that point, I negotiated an offer with Uber, paid $1 million, like $4 million over 4 years. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm traveling. Went to South America, Central America, went to Europe, a lot of travel, about a year and a half, learning Spanish. And during that time, I was having conversations with people, just people, friends reaching out, colleagues reaching out. And one person I particularly remember, I was in India in a kind of a retreat kind of center, relaxing, when she called. And we talked for an hour and a half. And she talked about, I feel undervalued, underpaid, and this and that. I talked a few things. You can maybe do this, maybe do that. And then I'm like, I was done. I mean, I was having this conversation all the time. So I'm like, well, great. And then a week later, she comes back and she says she got a 80% raise in the last 1 week. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what happened? And she's like, well, this happened. I talked to people, and then they gave me 50% raise, and then I pushed further, and they gave me 30% more. And then she asked me something that I'll never forget. She said, can you work with me? I'm like, I'm not working. I thought she wanted to hire me, to work with me. Like, hey, can you join me and like my company? I'm like, no, I'm not working. I'm taking time off. She's like, no, 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 no. I mean, can you coach me? And I'm like, what is coaching? And rest is history. So let's get started. This
I
is back
love it.
in 2018. Uh, then, but I do remember now in 2019, I got married and I met some friends from middle school. And they're asking, what do you do now? So I told them, and one of them told me, oh, yeah, 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 I remember in 10th grade, you used to do something like this, help people, and you found your passion. I'm like, really? That's the unconscious moment. Unconsciously, I think I've been interested in coaching forever. This friend told me in 10th grade I used to help people, but consciously it happened in 2018.
2018. Okay. Interesting. Now, you started with her, right? You helped her. That was it sounds like your first client, right? Even if you didn't knew it at the time,
It was
right?
actually, that was just a advising. And later on, I learned a lot about coaching is not advising and this and that. She became a client. It evolved a lot. I didn't even know what coaching was. So that was the first client. And she
Okay.
did become a paid client eventually.
Now, I love to understand the shift, that happened when you're starting helping people to, I'm building a real business around this. Do you remember when that happened? I'm not sure if it's the first paying client, if it's the first invoice, but it's when you actually put that hat of coach slash business owner.
When did that happen? I think that was in 2019. We started to, build a business, which is more like a, mom and pop store kind of small thing. Uh, that's when I started to charge for coaching after a few clients of, helping them and seeing that it's a reproducible thing. It's not something a one-off thing. And once I saw, 5, 6 people shifting their relationship with work, getting better work, helping one person find a job, I realized, oh, this is something there's something here. And I really enjoyed it doing it also. But there was a gap between, you know, uh, doing it for fun and then doing it for fun and money both. And that piece was, uh, you know, like a lot of people. I mean, I don't know a lot of people, but for me, for sure, I didn't have a very healthy relationship with money. And charging people for help I provided just seemed off. So it took me some time to work through that. And eventually, I think 2019, 2020 or so, and that's when we started to really grow business.
Hmm. Okay, 2019, Yogi launches officially. Not necessarily launches, but feels like a real business. And then we got hit by COVID, right? So
Yeah.
how that played out for your business?
Actually, I didn't see anything in COVID. Basically, pretty much it was business as usual. I always had done virtual calls. I've been online since 2018. So that was, if anything, is more comfortable. Earlier, people would say, well, can we meet in person? And that was like, well, we figured out. And I coached people even by COVID time. I had coached people in 6 continents except Antarctica. So I was already like a international kind of business in that way, but COVID made it like Zoom became very acceptable, and that's how things are. So COVID was normal. Nothing really changed for me in COVID.
Okay, so if
Business
you're right, good, because you already had your structure, which is great,
was there, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you're listening this from Antarctica, Yogi would love
Oh,
to coach you.
now actually, I still don't have a client from Antarctica. So I think one of those
Yes.
explorers.
Okay.
Actually, I do have a friend who is visiting Antarctica. So maybe. No,
You never know.
just kidding.
Okay. Now, in the early days of coaching, sometimes I see coaches trying to help everyone, right? And then they start refining or niching down, or even they don't niche. Okay. But what I would love to understand is um, the clients, the people that kept showing up, the pattern, the ones you realize, okay, these are my people. Have you ever eventually found your tribe?
So that was a hard thing for me because um, so the one thing I learned in coaching is that what people come to me for is not what the real issue is. Okay. And so people come to me for workplace. I think usually I've seen the pattern now. I was a engineer, research scientist at Facebook. I was a mathematician before that. I did my PhD at Cornell. I went to IIT Kanpur and got gold medal and all that. So I think that is the trajectory. People who are doing well, engineers, research scientists, data scientists, product managers, they tend to show up because they are in my network. Okay. And they think they are coming to me for undervalued, underappreciated, and not getting enough money, and not getting the raise, and not hard to change jobs, and we help with all of that. But what I realize is a lot of time we spend with people on is developing self-trust, building a harmonizing relationship with themselves, building how to communicate better with colleagues, with managers, at home, with wife and husband, with kids, and those things, or focusing on what you're working on instead of like just being all over the place. So people who I work with tend to be in the technical field, but I have worked with a lawyer from Hong Kong. I don't know much about law, and I don't know much about Hong Kong, but I work with them. And coaching is a very different kind of, the patterns are very similar when people come to me. I worked with a financial advisor from Bay Area. I worked with a real estate agent from here also. So, but that's probably 20-ish% of people, 20-30, maybe the remaining 70 are from technical field.
Okay. I mean, that's the ICP, right? The ideal client profile. Now, let's talk about the part nobody escapes, Yogi. Marketing, right? So, how do those people usually find you? You know, the people in the technical field, for example.
To be honest, that's still a mystery to me. Like, uh, it's, I mean, I've got a pretty successful business. I'm, making more money than I used to make at Facebook and all that. But I think the where people find me is a lot of through referrals. So about 70% still, 70, 75, a large fraction still comes through referrals. Uh, and people just like, well, I learned about you from this person. And so that's the one big part. Second piece is LinkedIn. LinkedIn tends to be about the remaining 20% or so. People find my content. I write from heart a lot of times. I write what I feel, and then people connect with that, and they tell me like, oh, I connected with how you put this thing succinctly or whatever way I put it. And then they come to me and they message me and like, hey, can I talk to you? We just talk at that way. And then the small fraction of people, sometimes come through listening to podcasts, my I have YouTube channel, things like that.
Okay, now let's pretend I'm one of those people, right? I looked at your LinkedIn profile or listened to you on podcast, YouTube, was referred to you. I resonated with what you have out there, and I'm like, hey, I want to work with Yogi, right? So we eventually got into a call. We ended up signing a contract or a deposit, whatever you want to call it. The process, I'm converted into a client, right? So walk me through it. How working with you actually looks like from the client's perspective.
So it's actually, you're skipping a whole bunch of stuff. The way I work with people is when they come to me, hey, I would love to work with you, and we talk about coaching is serious business. It's fun, but also serious. It's serious fun. So it requires commitments, investments, and people think of money as a big investment, which is, of course, but I think money is not even nearly uh, uh, as commitment creating as other investment I ask people for: time, energy they bring to the coaching engagement. So I actually spend a couple calls with people even before we sign up to say, to see really, are you a good fit and can I help you really? And sometimes in this process I help people give thoughts around their life, how they can approach things. We give them some plan, or like they could this and that. And sometimes people find that helpful, and that's great. And we don't continue because I don't think I see a lot of chemistry, connection, and this and that. So even though I'm just a couple of weeks ago, the person who really wanted to work, but I just didn't really see a a good chemistry, and how uh, I also want to learn from people. It's not just me, they learning from me and my coaches and my team, but we also want to learn from people. So I think once there's chemistry and once there is a good understanding of what that means, uh, that's when we kind of sign up for people. So once they commit to this, committed people. Once they commit, then it depends. I think a lot of my work is customized. So we do one-on-one coaching. We do a part of some sort of a small group coaching. We also do kind of laser coaching, what we call like on-demand coaching. Uh, Other piece that we do is it depends on who the client is. I talked about tech people. Tech people are varied. They're engineers, they're product managers. I also work with tech CEOs, CTOs. I've been working with a few companies I worked with. Sometimes if there's one company I was working with was like a $200 million company in that range of valuation, and they had a CEO CTO conflict that was really burning a lot of things. And I worked with them for a few months to bring unsaid things to the table and help them resolve that and move forward with conviction. So that's a very different engagement. That's like a lot more one-on-one. They will not come to a group and discuss this, but a lot of time engineers and product managers and then we work with like a uh, more common problem. Then we end up working in a different way. So I think it depends on what client is willing to work with, what we are willing to work with, what we find a common ground, but what will help them the most. That's kind of what we will try to find. It makes sense, or was too confusing?
No, it makes sense. And I appreciate you sharing the fact that you see if there's alignment, right? If there's a fit between your work and what they want to do. Because I think if you don't do that, at the end of the day, this in the future will come back as 10x, as a problem. And so it's very important to have all the expectations leveled in first point of contact. So I appreciate it on you.
And that piece, by the way, because a lot of people who come to me, like paying 10, 15, $20,000, whatever, it's not a big amount of money. It's a chunk of money, but people can afford it. And the results we get are immense compared to what we charge. So that makes sense. So money is usually not the make or break factor for us. What factor is really, are they committed? Are they willing to do the work? I mean, coaching doesn't do anything if you're not willing to do the work. We are not magicians. So kind of teasing that out, whether somebody is serious or somebody just wants to shift blame to somebody. And like hearing their language is very important for me. Like how they're describing problems, what their goals are. Their goals are exciting and challenging for me also. Like, I would love to help you do this. So it depends on a lot of factors that fit.
Your work seems pretty hands-on, and you mentioned something in the origin story that you burned out and all of that. And I see a lot of coaches out there in our space that they even burn out themselves while advocating against burnout, because it's such a passion identity driven profession, right? So how do you think about capacity right now for your own coaching business so you don't stretch yourself too thin?
Yeah, I think burnout is, I used to think burnout, if you do work on your passion, you don't burn out. That's absolutely not true. You can definitely burn out working on something you're passionate about. So I left Facebook to have a better lifestyle. Okay. One of my goals in life, long-term goals, is to take 4 months off and do Pacific Crest Trail in California, like a long hiking. I do backpacking and I teach people backpacking and I do all kinds of things also on the side. I want to do that. It takes 4 months though, right? And 4 months of pretty much on the trail, right? And I thought, I'll do my own work and my own job, and then I'll have all the time. And I realized 3-4 years of coaching business, and I was working more in my coaching business than I was working in Facebook. And I was like, what am I doing here, right? And the thing is, I couldn't find a good reason why am I doing it. It's just a habit. So I've been working on that habit of like, how can I be sustainably effective and sustainably create impact with people? And uh, I've been working with. Uh, I have coaches now on my team who are one of the coaches used to coach me, so I brought them on the team. So there's a lot of like, I bring good people, and now I've been kind of scaling impact that way to so that I can show up more present and more focused and more impactfully when I show up. So burnout is definitely real, and I've seen this even in my coaching business. Even though I love most of what I do.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm also a coach, so I kind of share the same principle. It's like, oh my god, this is so fun, but at the end of the day, sometimes I feel depleted, right? So you can definitely burn out, even if you're doing something that is like a passion for you. Now, I love the hiking and all that, the 4 months off, but I want to understand, like, and I'm curious about it's like future, right? So where you're taking all this, looking ahead, where do you see the business going? Are you thinking about scaling, hiring, or is there a next step you're excited about?
It's interesting you brought the scaling and also the burnout piece. For me, they are very related. So burnout for me last time it happened was probably a couple of years ago. So now things are much better. But what I'm working on is I'm working on high quality systems. I've coached, I've worked with, I've had conversation with, I don't know, probably 600 people now over the 8 years, close to 600. It used to be 500 a year ago, and now probably close to 600. Uh, and I realized that I used to keep a lot of things in my, I used to remember stuff. I'm pretty good at remembering things and this and that, but it doesn't scale very well. So I think building high quality systems so that it's actually there is a system to this madness. Uh, Madness meaning I used to think like I just come and show up and I coach impactfully, which is what happens. But I think system makes it even more impactful for people. It makes it easy for them to implement things. Right? So developing the system has been one thing. Uh, and the second big challenge I feel actually is because so 3 years ago, uh, I I've been working with coaches all through this. I have at least two coaches all of my these 8 years, right? Uh, and Last 3 years, I grew about 5-6x, like really sharp growth. Okay, uh, now my role now is I know how to grow. I kind of pretty a good sense of how to grow. What my thing is to resist the growth so that I grow at my own pace and maintain the high quality. Because I think that's the reason I've not raised money. Uh, I don't want to. I meet a couple of investors in Bay Area, and there's a friend who is an investor, and he's like, you should raise money, and I would love to invest. And I know that once people invest, they want me to grow according to their timeline now, not my timelines.
Mm.
And that has been a difficult push because this person is, I mean, as a friend, sometimes they ask me some things and I suggest what I do with people and they really find it impactful, valuable. They would love to invest, but I'm not interested in that. So pushing that out is a challenge, and building a system at my own pace. Some things are challenging for me, even though they're very easy for I don't know some other person. So I think just working on that has been what I've been working on is to grow at my own pace, develop high quality systems, and then the growth piece is actually the easy piece for me because I left Facebook job. A lot of people leave job out of knee-jerk reaction. It took me 3 years to leave the job because I got the idea of leaving a job in 2013, 2014. I left in 2017. But once I left in a sustainable way. I don't have to go back. I thought through it. Right? So I'm a thinker, and I'm also careful that way. I really care about people I serve, and I want to do a good job at that instead of like, oh, let's just grow, and we'll figure it out. Like, no, we don't figure
Mm.
it out that way.
Interesting. It's like growing, but with intention and maintaining the core of your own business, so you don't lose depth with
Don't
the
lose
growing
depth.
aspect.
Don't lose
Mm.
depth. I like that. I haven't thought through that way. Thought about it that way, but not losing depth. And I still
Mm.
have kind of, so far I still talk to people myself to bring people into coaching. That's it's a quality control. And eventually, if I want to, like hire somebody to do that, I want to make sure that that is done in a good way. The culture of the coaching program doesn't shift, because when we do group coaching, part of the work we do is create vulnerable space for everybody to share. And one
Mm.
bad fish can really create havoc in the group. I don't want that.
Yes. And I can only imagine the rhythm to find that fine tune balance between growing and impacting people is such a challenge, because when you see the outcome, you feel, I imagine you feel energized, right? You're like, oh my God, I helped these people. I helped this guy. I helped this gal. And then you're like, at the same time, you want to grow, you want to preserve the integrity of your own business and the way you want to do it. So it's like, I can only imagine it's a constant inner battle, right? I'm not sure if that's what happens, but I'm trying to picture what it would look like.
Actually, that's true. I think that the battle is real. And for me, building a good team is very important. Second piece, I do have really high goals. Like, I want to impact 1 million people through this work. And impacting doesn't mean getting a follower. Impacting means somebody saying, creating a sentence about how Yogi's work helped me, right? So that way, 1 million people. But I'm patient. I'm not like it has to happen in next 2 years. For me, this is 10, 20, 30, 40-year work. And I don't see myself, quote unquote, retiring from this. I think
Mm.
this is one of the work that uh, it gives me energy. Like, even, I mean, the parts of coaching work that don't give me energy. For example, I don't know, sometimes the admin work can be exhausting, but the actual coaching call, right? I remember there was a time, couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I was burned out and I was very tired. And what really helped was to hop on a coaching call that would energize me for the next 1 hour. So coaching has been energizing for me. So that's good part. So I'm here in the long run, and I do want to impact, you know, positively impact 1 million people. And I worked with, few hundred people now. So I'm far from that goal, but I'm not in a hurry to go there. I want to really go it sustainably, and helping people have good experience and good results, and helping them achieve good results.
I'm thinking about your hiking experience. It's not a marathon. I'm sorry, it's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon. It's like
Yes.
slowly getting there, but keep moving forward,
Yeah.
right? Mm,
The Navy
okay.
SEALs in U.S. Navy, they talk about U.S. Special Forces. They talk about this phrase. I love this. It says, "Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast." And I think for me, the smoothness is important for all of that.
Nice. Now, I I kind of feel the need to tap into your experience for a second, because people listening can really benefit from this. I mean, you've been in the game long enough to hear all kinds of business advice, right? Some are good, some are bad. There are all type of
We've
business
got to
advice out there. Like, what would you say is like one piece of business advice you hear all the time that you think, that's overrated or maybe misunderstood?
business advice that is overrated. Business advice that is overrated. I think there's not real one advice. One thing I see is that people don't look at the advice in the context of where they are in life. So, for example, let me give you um, any advice can be good or bad advice depending on where you are in life.
Mm.
It's a marathon, let's say, 0 to 26 miles. What is a good advice for a mile 3 is a bad advice for mile 20, and vice versa. And advice like, oh, focus on lead gen. It's a good advice for some people and a bad advice for somebody. Oh, focus on sales. Sales is the or cash is the king, or you got to be good salesperson, or you just focus on coaching, everything else falls in place. I think all of them are contextually good advice and contextually bad advice, right? And that's where, for me, having a personalized approach is important. Like where somebody understands my context, or I understand somebody's context, and tell them what might be helpful for them, not what will be helpful. I don't know. And then they figure it out, do something, and come back and tell me it how it worked, well or not so well, and then we course correct. You know, so that is a. I would say there's no really specific advice, but any advice I can see being a bad advice many times, even though it's a good advice for other people.
Really depends on the moment, the situation, the context, and all of that. That make perfect sense. I love that. Now, on the other side, what's a piece of advice you wish more people actually took seriously?
Uh, what a piece of advice, business owners or just generally?
Usually business, but it could be general. I don't
Uh,
mind because they always mix together, right?
yeah,
It's-
I think a lot of people are in a hurry, and
Mhm.
they're looking for quick fixes. And but sometimes we do need tactics. We do need quick fixes. But a lot of times, quick fixes can really um, push the real problem down, and it'll bring the problem will bring its head back up later on and creates a bigger mess. So I think, for example, growth. I think maintain quality is important compared to, like, okay, I need to grow and do something. And one advice that actually my was very helpful for me was my business coach or my coach had given me, was just for coaching. For me, was very helpful. He said, if the money is a concern and you are really, money is the top priority for making, the working on the business, then this business is not a good business for that. So if money is a concern, then find a way to make money somewhere else also and do this work on the side, because that seeps into your experience of coaching. And I think that has been very helpful. I've always had kind of not rely on this income for for anything, and it's a very beautiful gift when I do make the money, and I do make a good amount of money, and that's great. But I think that piece was very helpful, because otherwise it's hard to separate. I need something. So money can of course be a concern, but not the top concern. Third, fourth, I mean, down there is
Mm,
good, but uh, that was very helpful for
mm,
me.
I worked in sales for a while um, with a landscape business coach. And the moment it shifted for me, I'm not sure if that's going to make sense, but the moment it shifted for me is like I wasn't going for the sales call to close. I was going to serve, you know? So it's like a mindset shift on I'm not going to serve to go to a coaching client or whatever call to actually get money out of it. It's more about helping them and money will come. Did that make sense? Is that
And
something like
you're
we're
very
talking
smart
about?
about money, but that's not the primary concern.
It's part of the process.
Yeah, I think this. I used to have this post-it here where I was struggling with the kind of selling and serving and that kind of thing. Sell to serve. You
Mm.
sell to serve, not sell to make money. And I think that was very. And that was part of my evolution of, like, when making money is actually a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with making money, but
Right.
that's not the primary concern. That was has been a very, very helpful thing for me.
But on the other side, I'm not sure if you agree with me, but I've seen a lot of coaches out there that they do free work pro bono, and sometimes having clients with no skin in the game, they no show,
Oh,
they
it doesn't
didn't
work at all. Doesn't work.
doesn't work, right?
I've done free coaching. Used to do earlier, and I would do the same coaching with two people, and one is free, one is paid, and paid get a lot of results. I realized, oh wow, that's why money is definitely part of this work. I can afford
They
to do free coaching for sure. but I don't do it anymore
Yeah, I
because
love
it
that.
makes me feel good. Like, oh, I helped somebody, but they didn't get any results. I know because they're just not taking it seriously.
They have no skin in the game, right?
No skin in the game.
No commitment. Yeah. You know, Yogi, and if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, where can people find you and connect with you?
So I have a YouTube channel, Yogi Sharma. I have a website, yogisharma.com. I don't have a lot of LinkedIn is good. Yogi one, YOGI one. I think those are few places. And of course, yogi@yogisharma.com is a good email to reach out to me. And if something is comes up, I'm happy to see to explore and see if I can help you on a quick call. See if something will be helpful. If that's helpful, great. If not,
Mm.
we don't have to spend too much time on that.
Yeah, we're gonna add all the in the description all the links, so that's not a worry. Now, there were a few things that you shared today that really stood out to me. I'll put it like that. You know, the 80% raise you mentioned, just by giving advice, right? It was not even you were not even coaching that woman in that retreat or the time off you were, and she's asking you in a way that is super organic, like, can you do this, can you work with me? I love how natural that is, and how organically you created your coaching practice. It's
And
something like
also, yeah,
mhm,
in that context, by the way, the 80% raise was it's. I think what I learned is also the way I'm being is very important because just a year before that, I had negotiated a job offer at Uber going from 350K to $1 million a year. And I had done it. I know how it feels, and it's very, very uncomfortable, and this and that, and how to navigate the emotional mess you are sometimes. And I think that was I realized what this person found helpful, not specific words to say and all that, how to be in an uncomfortable conversation, right?
mm,
So
yes. And when you said that you were more working more in your coaching business rather than Facebook, I mean,
I
that
laugh
is
when
so
I
true.
recognize that.
That is so true. I see a lot of coaches joining this space, right? And they're only thinking about the coaching practice itself, the one on one. They love coaching, all that. They forget about the CEO, right? The business development, the marketing, the all of the other hats. Like when you were on Facebook, you were in your team and you had that, but you had a big machine in the background working for you and setting up all the structure, and now you have to do all by yourself. So that's one. And overall, I think, Yogi, it's how honest you are and how you own your own story, right? I need to commend you on that. It's like, I burned out, I went there, I didn't expect this to happen, this happened, and so I think that's like a key asset for a true coach. And I always say this on the podcast, is like owning your own story, being vulnerable, and showing integrity along the way. I think that's the real true asset. And
Actually, adding to that, I must say, like, I guess we haven't talked about this, but you know, it looks like, oh, I struggled in Facebook, I recovered, and I burned out, now I'm good, now I'm perfect. I have anxieties now on a hope not a daily basis, but here and there, I worry this and that. And I think through coaching, I have two coaches that I work with and regularly, and through my own coaching other people, I also implement them myself, and that's how I learn how to help people. Like I have my own mindfulness practice, I have my own journaling practice, and this and that, and I still struggle. So struggle is not over; it's still ongoing, and that's what also helps me connect with people. For example, the fear around AI. A lot of people who come to me are very afraid of AI. I'm also afraid of AI. It's a matter of how do we walk through this kind of passage that we are, on now, and somehow it doesn't create a lot of trouble for me. Yeah, I see a possibility of AI taking over a lot of stuff, and somehow working through that, my emotions and this, and now it's okay. How to work with that, right? and making things fun along the way, like even marketing. Like marketing is one of my coaches helped me this a lot. Like, see, marketing just as a word, marketing, and he helped me see how to make marketing fun, do in a fun way, and I do it very differently than most people do, and I like it, and I did for 6 months. I did it in a way that I was supposed to do it, and I burned out so bad. So that's also partly kind of learning process for me.
Yeah, especially the fun part. I gotta agree with you on that. It has to be fun, or else it's gonna tend out to be boring, not a great outcome for you and your clients. Now, this is my long-winded way of saying that I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today, Yogi. It was great having you on.
Thank you, Pedro. It was fun. It was really great to chat with you also.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.